Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Good Afternoon Ghana. My name is Kenneth Jesse. So, as reported earlier, the Office of the Special Prosecutor has frozen the bank accounts of the late CEO of the Forestry Commission, Sir John. And this latest move is part of investigations into the acquisition of state lands that were contained in the will of the late CEO. The Office of the Special Prosecutor last week commenced investigations into a suspected case of corruption against Sir John with regard to his alleged improper acquisition of state lands within the Achimota Forest and the Sakumono Ramsar site. A will which is purported to be that of Sir John caused public uproar after he bequeathed state lands to some relatives. We'll be delving into the issues and introduce our guests right after the break. Welcome back to Good Afternoon Ghana. My name once again is Kenneth Jesse. Our topic for discussion today is Fight Against Corruption, assessing OSP's recent list of cases being prosecuted. And my guest for today will be Mary Ada, who is the Programs Manager at Ghana Integrity Initiative. We also have Emmanuel Wilson, who is the Chief Crusader at Crusaders Against Corruption. Adam Senanu will be also joining us virtually. He is the co-chair of Citizens Movement Against Corruption. Mariada will also be joining virtually, but at the moment I have in the studio Emmanuel Wilson, who is the Chief Crusader of Crusaders Against Corruption. Emmanuel, good afternoon. Welcome to the show. Right. So what do you make of the special prosecutor freezing the assets of the late Sir John?
We're happy that such an action has taken place. When you assess the will that came out, the will coming from Sir John, the late Sir John, and being circulated on other social media platforms, when you study it carefully, there is a strong suggestion that there is a corrupt practice in there.
Okay.
One, we can establish clearly, and this has been established, that there are lands belonging to the state which were captured in the will. And that has to do specifically with the Achimota Forest, and then I think one other Tema. These are state lands. Now, in acquiring state lands, we know the process involved. We even know the laws that govern state lands. And we know that when the state acquires your land, and the state does not use it for its intended purpose, or its purpose has expired, it is supposed to get back to the family, okay, and not to be used among, or not to be shared or sold among members who are in the public light.
Okay.
So this is a clear establishment that there is a strong suggestion that it is suggestive that there's some corruption in there.
Right.
In that Sir John acquired this using his office.
Okay.
And when you use your office to amass wealth for yourself, it is called abuse of office.
Okay.
And when you abuse your office, it is an example of corruption.
Okay.
And so from all indication, there is some element of corruption in Sir John's will. And if there is, what needs to be done is that we first have to quickly do a further investigation and get a court of competent jurisdiction to establish this or to give an order to that effect.
Okay.
And that is what it seems or looks like the special prosecutor is doing.
Okay.
He has decided to quickly freeze the accounts, one, and freeze all other properties of Sir John, because we are not sure as it stands now whether even the accounts, financial accounts at the various banks, the monies that are in it were amassed or they were gotten through corrupt practices. We are not sure yet. And so there's a need for investigation to take place. And for you to do an investigation, the first thing you need to do is to quickly freeze the accounts and then do the necessary investigation that you need to do.
Okay.
So that we acknowledge, and we want to congratulate the special prosecutor for taking that initiative.
Okay.
Our difficulty is that when you are fighting corruption, you use two approaches. You either become a reactionist, as in you wait for the incident or the thing to happen, the corrupt practice to occur, after which you come in and say that you are doing an investigation, and then you want to, as it is, punish the culprit.
Okay.
That is the reactionist approach. There's another approach which is known as the proactive approach. The proactive approach suggests that you do what you need to do in terms of investigation to even ensure that corruption doesn't occur. In any jurisdiction that is a serious jurisdiction when it comes to the fight against corruption, that jurisdiction, for you to assess whether that jurisdiction is seriously committed to the fight against corruption or not, what you need to know is to find out whether that jurisdiction is using a reactive approach or a proactive approach. Any jurisdiction that uses a reaction approach, that jurisdiction is not really committed to the fight against corruption.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it looks, or it is suggestive strongly, that is the approach the special prosecutor is using.
Okay.
The special prosecutor, since the inception of the office, or the office being established, right from that time till now, every action that the special prosecutor seems to have taken is, defined. It is defined in the context of reactionism.
Okay, that means it was because of a public uproar.
Public uproar. Okay. Then he comes in. It is more or less like what we jokingly describe as fire service approach. We sit down and allow the fire to come up, and then we quickly come to put it down, and we go to sleep.
Okay.
The question is, if the special prosecutor is really committed to the fight against corruption and want to use the effective approach, which is the proactive approach, then what he needs to do is to ensure that he will not sit down for issues to come up, pop up, before he decides to stop it. I'll give you some examples, if I'm permitted.
Go ahead.
For instance, when this will issue came up, prior to its coming up, there hasn't been any issue regarding state properties, regarding asset declarations, regarding all that you can think of in preventing corruption. The question we ask is, if Sir John had not died and someone had not leaked that will, would the special prosecutor have taken the action that he's taken? If the answer is no, then it means that there are thousands of Sir Johns in the system who have acquired illegally or through corrupt means state properties and state lands. But for the fact that their will have not come up, the special prosecutor has folded his arms and he's just sitting waiting.
Right.
That is not the best way to fight it. I was saying earlier on that just about a week ago, Crusaders Against Corruption, we got a list of individuals who have taken state properties or have bought state properties.
Okay.
And we have this list, and it is more than 100 persons who have done that. We ask ourselves when we got this list, and we've gone through it, and we've seen some individuals who are even still alive. They are not dead.
Okay.
Some are holding office. So as I said...
So if you say some individuals who are still alive, that means the list contains some people who have unfortunately passed away as well.
It is not all individuals in the list that we know.
Okay.
And so we cannot assume whether all of them are alive or they are dead.
Okay.
But at least we can confidently talk of those that we know.
Yes.
And then say that these people are still alive.
Okay.
Others, I'm sure the structures Crusaders Against Corruption have, compared to the structures that the State Prosecutor's Office have. State Prosecutor's Office have a stronger structure than we do.
Okay.
Because we are just a civil society organization.
All right.
And so if indeed State Prosecutor's Office want to fight and prevent corruption, this list that we got, I am sure that they can also have access to the list if they are really committed to it.
Okay.
And this starts from 1999 all the way till now. Are you getting it? 1992 all the way till now. So there are so many ways in which we can be proactive in fighting corruption, other than just sitting down and say that we want to take the reactionist approach. That is what, unfortunately, the current prosecutor seems to be using.
Right.
The other thing that could have been done is what you made mention of, and that has to do with declaration of assets. If you look at the manifestos of the various political parties, especially the leading parties, the NDC and the MPP, 2016, 2020, they all came out with clear policies, anti-corruption policies,
Okay.
and said that when they should win power, this is what they are going to do.
Okay.
Now that we speak, the current government, because they won the elections 2016, and they also won 2020. Indeed, if you look at the 2016 manifesto and 2020 manifesto, the differences are not that much because it is more of continuity. That's what they said.
Okay.
If you look at their manifesto, they came out with 7 clear anti-corruption policies. And they said that these are the policies they were going to use, implement, to ensure that they fight against corruption. One of it, and I'm going to use that one because that is relevant now, has to do with the enforcement
of the
law regarding asset declaration, full enforcement. Unfortunately, as we speak, our checks suggest that it is just a handful of individuals in this government that have declared their assets. To the extent that it has become worrying, where even the Speaker of Parliament, Ghana's Parliament, had an occasion to announce to the members of Parliament that those that have not declared their assets, they are supposed to do so. Recent checks suggest that ministers that we have now, it is just about 18 out of the number of ministers we have in this country that have declared their assets. And so right from even the manifestos of the current government, they themselves have failed. But be it as it may, that is the reason why we have anti-corruption institutions or agencies like State Prosecutor's Office. Why is it that the State Prosecutor has not seen this as a strong avenue where corruption will breed? For him to call and start going after individuals who have been appointed, elected, but have failed to declare their assets. Is it that he's waiting for, I mean, God forbid, but is it that he's waiting for these individuals to die, for the will to come out before he would know that this person did not declare his assets or this person declared his assets?
Kindly hold on for me because I have some revealing statistics concerning this asset declaration from the Fourth Estate, which says that about 90 of those appointees under Akufo-Addo did not fully declare their asset, which include Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia and also the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. In fact, it continues to say that 28 of the ministers and deputy ministers did not declare their assets at all. And then, as you did mention, about 18 of them declared the assets, which is very worrying, isn't it?
It is extremely worrying. Probably people do not appreciate the reason why we went through the pain to enact the declaration, Asset Declaration Act. See, the rationale behind it is simple. If today I am a minister, today I am appointed to administer public funds, today I have been appointed or elected to hold public office, what I am supposed to do is to declare my assets right before I assume office. And in doing so, I come out with a form. I mean, a template form that is already there, and I am supposed to fill it and give evidence and say that prior to me holding this office, I was having 2 vehicles, I was having 2 houses, I was having this number of plots of, let's say 3 or 4 plots of land or acres of land. The location, one house is located at Accra, Osu, my hometown. The other one is probably at Ibri, my hometown. And then probably the other one is somewhere, you know. When I do this, anytime my tenure ends, I am supposed to hand over. Anytime there's a reshuffle and it affects me, I am supposed to hand over. In the process of handing over, I am supposed to state the number of houses that I have. And say that during my tenure, before I took office, I had 3 houses. I have spent a year or 2 or 4 years or 8 years in office. In living, I have acquired 3 additional houses. And so now I have 5 houses in total. The special prosecutor and other anti-corruption institutions or agencies like IOCO, SHRAJ, and Co., CID's office, they are supposed to do an investigation and say that when you were a minister or an MP, let's say a minister, your take-home pay, monthly salary, was, say, 20,000 Ghana cedis. You stayed in office for 4 years. Let's do a calculation and find out that within that 4 years, you stayed in office. Within that 4 years, you were paid a monthly salary of 20,000 cedis. Can that amount of money?
But Emmanuel, let me come in here. If you say that the person earned 20,000 Ghana cedis a month, so you are using that to do the calculation, is it not rather a bit unfair? Because within that period,
There are
perhaps
other things.
Okay.
There are other things. For instance, you go to programs, you travel, there are
Exactly.
allowances and
Yes.
all those things.
Maybe the person had some private business somewhere.
So that is where those investigations comes in. So the asset declaration gives you a grounding for you to start an investigation to find out whether or not the amount of money the person is earning, whether through salary in addition to other things you are talking about, whether that amount of money qualifies the person
To be able
to buy those properties within that short period.
Okay.
If it is yes, that is fine. If it is no, then it raises a red flag. And that becomes a basis for the anti-corruption agencies like the state, the Special Prosecutor's Office to initiate an investigation. Today, as we speak, look at the number of ministers that have not declared their assets.
28.
28. Today, as we speak, to the extent that even the sitting vice president has not declared his assets fully.
Okay.
To the extent that we have a finance minister who administers over you and I, our finances, who has not declared his assets fully. If today there is a reshuffle and he decides that he is leaving office, but then he leaves office with, let's say, thousands of houses, how will we know that those houses were acquired before or after he assumed office? Are we going to wait for the person to leave office before special prosecutor will stand up and say that, let me start doing an investigation? Or are we going to sit down and wait for someone to say that, I knew the vice president before coming to office, when he was at the Bank of Ghana, he was having 3 houses. As we speak, hypothetically, he's having, let's say, 50 houses. Are we waiting for someone to raise that alarm? Public uproar before the special prosecutor comes in? That is not the best way to fight corruption, because as I established the fact, as far as Crusaders Against Corruption is concerned, the special prosecutor's approach is that of being a reactionist and not a proactive person.
Okay.
We need to fight corruption by first preventing it,
Okay.
making sure that it doesn't take place at all. And that is why, if you remember, when Martin Amidu was being vetted for him to assume the office, he made mention of something that we applauded him. He said that his interest is not really about jailing corrupt people, but ensuring that the money is retrieved.
Okay.
His interest is not making sure that corrupt people are jailed, but making sure that systems are put in place such that the people will not even have the avenue to engage in corrupt practices.
Okay.
Today, as we speak, history tells us in this country that individuals who have been found culpable by the court of competent jurisdiction for engaging in corrupt practices, the best we get out of it is by sentencing the person, letting the person go to jail. And we, taxpayers, we end up even feeding the person in prison.
And we will not get
We won't get the money
back.
what has been spent.
Okay.
That is not what we need as a nation.
Okay. Can you quickly take us through the list and mention some of the popular or famous names that you have there?
Look, there are a lot of them.
Okay.
But if you will permit me, I'll just mention not more than 5.
Okay.
That I will do.
Go
not
ahead.
More than 5.
Go ahead.
So we have state lands buildings sold at Cantonment and Rage from the year 2005, between the year 2005 and 2006. Cantonment and Rage. The first name that we can confirm, we know to be alive,
Okay.
is Honorable I.C. Quay.
Shekai Sikwe. Okay.
The second one who benefited from it, that we know is alive, is Dr. Reku Brobe. The other one we know to be alive, who benefited from it, is Osafo Mafo.
Oh.
So that is that. That is 3. Let me go on to the other one. Federal list of allocations in airports, cantonments.
lands.
Yes.
Okay.
Airports, cantonments, and range residential area from the year 2006 and 2007. I will just mention 1 or 2. Just 1 or 2. Honorable Dr. Osei Akoto, Justice AKB Kluje.
Dr. Osei Akoto, former MP for Otafo.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I wouldn't want to mention this name.
Why? Why wouldn't you want to mention it? Go ahead.
Let
You
me
are free to
mention another
mention
name.
it.
Let me mention another name. The Honorable Shelley Ayokobotri. Okay, so that is that. Then we have a list of allocations, lands, international student hostel plots.
So are these people, did they acquire, through what means did they acquire these lands?
So from, and this document is actually from Lands Commission.
Okay.
Okay. So, I mean, it's on record. That's why I said that if the special prosecutor is proactive, he has access to these things.
Okay.
If we can have access to these things, he should also be able to have access to these things. His office should be able to have access to this. As far as we are concerned, payments were done.
Okay, they paid for
They
it.
paid for it.
Okay.
Payments were done. But mind you, Sir John also paid.
So that means they paid for it, but they didn't pay the right amount, or they acquired it through dubious means?
That cannot be asked. What we can answer here is that these are state lands.
Which are not supposed to
Exactly.
be sold to
That
private
is the most
citizens.
important thing.
Okay.
These are state lands that are not supposed to be sold. And so whether they paid through the appropriate means or paid the actual amount, whatever it is, ab initio, these are state lands that are not supposed to be sold. You understand? It goes on and it goes on and it goes on. And so we are saying that, look, these are other states' lands, sale of government lands, redevelopment project, phase 2, list of allocations under. So these are, okay, so this originated from Ministry of Works and Housing. So these are lands that were acquired by Ministry of Lands and, Works and Housing.
Okay.
And obviously, if Ministry of Works and Housing decide to acquire a land, it is supposed to use it for the general purpose of the people. It can be through, it can be through affordable housing. They want to build affordable housing or whatever it is. But I don't think they want to acquire private lands from people and then resell to individuals, private individuals. These are examples, as I said. So there are a lot of this.
Right.
But
the names you mentioned, you did indicate that this list includes sales from 1992 to present day. So how long ago were these acquisitions done?
How long as in? So,
like, when did they acquire these things?
I mentioned, okay,
Charles
so let's
Rekurube,
take one, for instance. Let's take one. ICQA, right? State lands, buildings, so that cantonments and range, okay? So ICQA, plot size, 0.29 acre, premium, so amount paid, 72, date of application, so he applied to buy it, that was...
The amount is 72 what? 2,000?
72, no, that's 70, wait. I think the amount is not so clear here.
Okay.
It's not so clear here.
I see your paper is a bit faint.
It's a bit faint because I got it soft copy and I needed to print it out for the purposes of this program. And so forgive me. But even with the date, I'm still struggling with it. But this I can see 16th of June, 2005.
That is
that
Charles
was date
Rekurube.
of, no, that is ICQA.
Sheikh ICQA.
Yes, date of application. Date of approval, 20th, 12th. 2005. So he applied for it in June 2005. It was approved December 2005. Date of allocation, so it was approved, but it was allocated 3rd, that is March 2006. I get in it. So there's a breakdown of the location, a breakdown including the size plots, even the prices, which, as I said, is not so clear, date of application, date of approval, and when it was allocated. And I'm sure if the original copy, where it will be very clear, can easily be gotten by the state prosecutor's office. You see, there are people who keep asking that, Why is it that civil society organizations like your organization are not working closely with state prosecutor's office?
Okay.
So that you all will be proactive in getting things done.
Yes.
And that becomes a worrying question. Worrying because from the attitude and actions of the state prosecutor's office itself, it suggests clearly that they are not interested in working with anti-corruption CSOs. You understand? For instance, if you have a CSO like Crusaders Against Corruption Ghana, we did our initial investigations. And based on informations we've been getting, people who elect to give us information and tell us what is happening in organizations that they belong to, state organizations that they belong to, they tell us, anonymously, without us mentioning their name anywhere. And when we gather information and we realize that these are, authentic information and it has some level of, some level of corruption in it, we will always run to the state prosecutor's office and petition the office with the evidence we have and tell the office that, look, this is what we have. So why don't you initiate an investigation? And then we can come in when we are needed so that collectively we can be proactive in doing that. Unfortunately, it looks like the state prosecutor's office is not so much interested in working with anti-corruption agencies, CSOs like Crusaders Against Corruption.
Right.
Unfortunately, for instance, this year, we have sent 2 petitions to Special Prosecutor's Office, and I have a copy of one of it here with their stamp on it. All right. This was sent in on the 23rd of February 2022.
Okay.
Waited till 16th of March 2022. 23rd February to 16th of March. We did not get any response. Not to talk of a letter acknowledging receipts of this, even though they have stamped it. But administratively, they are supposed to send a letter of acknowledgement telling us that we've received it, we are looking into it, at the appropriate time we will need you, or we need you now to come and help us and all that. Nothing was done. All the way till 16th of March 2022, when we decided to send a follow-up.
Okay.
So a reminder, after sending the original petition and not getting any response, we waited till 16th of March, and we again took the pain, knowing very well how committed we are to the fight against corruption in this country, sent a reminder to the Special Prosecutor's Office. Indeed, they received a reminder.
Oh, they did?
They did, and it is stamped.
Okay.
From 16th of March to date.
Not heard from
nothing. Them. And this is the 3rd different petition that we have sent to the Special Prosecutor's Office.
Maybe you're not sending it through the right means,
which is the right means? Because if there's a right means, after receiving it, even if it is the right means, they are not supposed to even receive it.
Okay.
They should have directed us, guided us to come appropriately. But they have not. It is just like some time ago, just about 2 or 3 months ago, when we sent a letter, I don't think I have it here, a petition to Parliament. We sent a petition to Parliament. Okay, so it's not here. And then when they received it, just a day after receiving it, we got a communication from them telling us that we submitted the petition not through the right means.
Okay.
And they guided us. We have a copy of it as to how to go about it. This is an institution that is committed to partnering with any anti-corruption agency or institution in the fight against corruption. That is what is supposed to be done administratively. So, assuming without admitting that we did not even use the appropriate means, the burden is on them to ensure that they guide us through the appropriate means, knowing very well that the issues we've raised and the evidence that we have put together borders on corruption, and it is within their corridor. You understand? But they have failed to do that. And so, just yesterday, a media house was asking, why are we not sending this list to a Special Prosecutor's Office?
I asked you earlier.
You also asked me earlier today, why are we not sending this list to the Special Prosecutor's Office? And the question is, we wish we can do that. But from the Special Prosecutor's own actions and inaction, it is clear that they are not so committed to it. They are probably waiting for individuals in here to have their will being circulated before they come out and react to it. But we believe strongly that the best way to fight corruption in this country, is by being proactive. We have told the special prosecutor, not officially, but through the media, on so many accounts, that look, if you take, for instance, the Auditor General's report, this is a report that year in, year out, it records corrupt practices and corrupt actions.
Okay.
By state institutions and individuals. Corruption is a crime. Crime doesn't have expiration. Why is it that the state prosecutor, after assuming or building that institution for how many years, 3 or 4 years now, right, why is it that we've not had any incident of the state prosecutor referring to any part of the Auditor General's report and saying that we are going after our money? Why is it that the state prosecutor is not assessing the Auditor General's report and say that year in, year out, there seems to be reoccurrence of corrupt practices in institution A, B, C, and D? And so we are checking the analysis to find out why it keeps reoccurring and identifying measures to prevent it from reoccurring in the future. We will sit down. This year will end. Auditor General will come out with its report, and it will be the same lamentation. Okay. Next year will come, and it will be the same lamentation. And it is simply because we have failed as a nation to be proactive when it comes to the fight against corruption.
Right. Let me chip in concerning the freezing of bank accounts of Sir John. He's dead, unfortunately. So what happens next? The assets have been frozen. And assuming he's found guilty, and that person cannot stand trial for anything. So what happens next? I really don't get it.
Unfortunately, if the person cannot stand trial, practically stand trial in this case, we have to retrieve the funds.
Okay.
We have to retrieve the properties. If it is established that it was acquired through corrupt practice or corrupt means, we retrieve and it goes to the states. So if there are, let's say, 20 million Ghana cedis in bank account A belonging to Sir John. I'm just using hypothetical figure. And it is established that that money was acquired illegally through corrupt practice or corrupt means. We would then retrieve it as a nation and put it probably in the consolidated funds or any other fund, and it will be used for the purposes of the states.
Okay. Even when the will came out, we saw some huge figures in some bank accounts, and then the people he had willed it to and all that. Don't you think that by now they might have retrieved loads of money from the account even before it got frozen?
Practically, it may. There's a possibility. If it so come out that way, then I will not be surprised. But that will also then mean that it is not all lost. These individuals are not dead.
Okay.
And so it is just like stealing. God forbid, but if I should steal a car and sell it to you, or will it to you, and you decide to go and sell it, we can trace.
Even if I didn't know that it's a stolen car.
Well, so the buyer must beware, or the one who is taking it must beware. That is a basic principle in the law of contracts where transactions are taking place, you understand? And so we must find out where the property has gotten to. If it so happens that the property has gotten to so many chains that we can't even get a property, then individuals in that chain of order who are alive must be held culpable to retrieve. If they can't retrieve it, they are supposed to pay back what it is.
That means all hope is not lost.
No. All hope is not lost. But you see, we can prevent all these troubles if only we are proactive. We can prevent all these troubles. That is why we keep saying that the best way to fight corruption is not being a reactionist, but being proactive.
Right.
So all is not lost. We can still go and do those investigations.
Right.
Make sure that the accounts that have been frozen, it will not be a story, as we heard somewhere last month, where someone's account was frozen, and then later the frozen period did expire, and the person quickly went to take all his money from the account. Later after, when the monies have been taken from the account, that was when the special prosecutor woke up and said that I am charging this person for certain things. You know it. It is in the public domain.
Well, kindly hold on for me. We'll continue the conversation right after the break. We'll be right back. This is Good Afternoon Ghana on Metro Television. Our topic for today is Fight Against Corruption, assessing OSP's recent list of cases being prosecuted. And my guest in the studio is Emmanuel Wilson, who is the chief crusader of Crusaders Against Corruption. Emmanuel, we're back again. So, still on the special prosecutor, in their defense, they have actually executed some cases, and I'll go through a few of them. And then this one was the nominee for the position for chief executive of Dwabin Municipal Assembly charged. That was on the 24th of May 2022.
MC.
Yes. And then excerpts of it read that the Office of the Special Prosecutor has charged the nominee for the position of Chief Executive of Dwabin Municipal Assembly, Alexander Kwabena Safo Kantanka, with 26 counts of corruption in respect of a public election arising out of two public elections conducted in September and November 2021 for the confirmation or otherwise of his nomination. And then another one also is the former Chief Executive Officer of Public Procurement Authority charged. This was in May 18, 2022, and excerpts of it read that the Chief Executive or the Office of the Special Prosecutor has charged the former Chief Executive Officer of Procurement Authority, Ajeni Boatin, with 8 counts of using public office for profit and 9 counts of directly and indirectly influencing the procurement process to obtain an unfair advantage in the award of a procurement contract. One of the issues that have come out is that the Office of the Special Prosecutor is not resourced enough to execute its duties, and at least they are working, aren't they? Because they've charged 2 people in recent time who one was a nominee and then one is also a former CEO. So it's not all that bad.
Well, so you see, let me start with the charging that has come. The PPA former boss has been charged. MCE has been charged. What is the MCE's crime? Vote buying. That's what it says. Now, the question is, when we are talking of vote buying, fortunately, and when the MCE was charged, Crusaders Against Corruption had the opportunity to congratulate the special prosecutor, even on your platform here. And then we said that vote buying is indeed one of the core issues affecting us when it comes to fighting corruption in this country, where individuals going into elections decide to manipulate the votes by buying it. And so we said that was commendable. And the reason why it was commendable was because when he assumed office, his first elections that took place had to do with that of the MCE.
Okay.
And so he saw videos again on the social media platforms, and then he decided that this is an act of corruption, so he's going into it. And we encouraged him that in doing this, it shouldn't just end with the MCE, because vote buying anywhere is a corrupt practice, and it's an act.
Right.
Do you remember just this weekend?
I was about to mention it. Go ahead.
Prior to this weekend, there were elections that took place internally,
Yes.
starting from polling stations, where evidence came out that people were buying votes.
Yes.
Constituency, where people came out, evidence came out that people were buying votes.
Right. In fact, one of the candidates that lost admitted to paying 1,000 Ghana cedis
That's
each
right.
to the delegates.
That's right. So at the regional level, recently, and I'm sure this is not just the end of it, very soon there's going to be a national election within the various political parties. Some political parties that have not even started from polling stations, they are going to start. There's going to be evidence of all those things.
Right. And talking about evidence, evidence is the name of the game. What if maybe they've not gathered enough evidence to prosecute these issues? Because
the MCE's issue, the first time the special prosecutor came out and said that they are suspecting vote buying, and so they are going to start investigating. It took a longer while for him to come out again and say that these are the charges.
Okay.
And so there was an initial suggestion that there's a corrupt practice.
Okay.
And for him to put his radar on the MCE, it's only happened when there were videos, recordings that suggested that the MCE himself was confessing or saying that this amount of money was what he shared in buying votes. You gave a fantastic example which took place just this weekend, where one of the candidates himself came out and said that I gave 1,000 each. That is enough grounding compared to that of the MCE.
Right.
That is enough grounding for the special prosecutor to say that, I can smell corruption. I can smell the buying of votes. And so I'm inviting this person for us to go into it. Not just him. There are videos, as I said, at least we also have a number of videos that suggest that individuals who contested were trying to buy votes.
Okay.
But having said that, we move on to the issue of whether or not the Special Prosecutor's Office needs to be blamed entirely, simply because he himself has come out to say, or the office have come out to say they are not resourced enough to do it. You see, the problem again we have in this country as far as fighting corruption is concerned is our deliberate building of quasi-anti-corruption institutions instead of strengthening already existing institutions.
Okay.
Shraj has had occasion to say that they are not resourced enough. Iyoko had occasion to say they are not resourced enough. If you go to offices of CID, that is one of the anti-corruption institutions we have in this country, and everyone who has had an encounter with the CID's office will have this experience to say, where one way or the other you go and they complain that they don't even have vehicle to move around with you. So you, the complainant, need to provide it. It's something that is going on. So almost all anti-corruption institutions we have in this country are crying that they don't have resources enough.
You think it's a deliberate thing not
What
to
I
resource
think
them
we
enough?
need to do is that, assuming without admitting that the state doesn't have enough money to resource all these institutions, you don't go about creating other institutions.
Okay.
So that the little money you claim to be having, you will end up spreading it thinly. When you do that, you are not able to resource them enough, and you are not able to get the outcome that you are supposed to get. When Special Prosecutor's Office was set up, Crusader's position right from the beginning was that this is not needed. Whatever duties the Office of the Special Prosecutor is supposed to have or do, we can refine it and add it onto any of the existing anti-corruption institutions.
Okay.
And when you do that, the amount of money or budget you are supposed to give to the Special Prosecutor's Office, you can add it on to the existing one, and they will have enough to execute their mandate as they are supposed to do.
So are you saying that the establishment of the Office of the Special Prosecutor was not needed?
What we are saying is that if you set up an office and you are not ready to resource it fully, then it is better not to set it up. Because if the office needs 10 cities, for instance, to execute its mandate successfully, and you give it 3 cities or 4 cities or 5 cities, it will not be able to execute its mandate successfully. And anytime you strengthen a person halfway, you will not be able to get the full outcome. The outcome becomes a halfway outcome. And that is the reason why it may look, I am not sure, it may look like the Special Prosecutor's Office is careful with the kind of corrupt issues that they want to tackle, because they don't have enough to tackle all corrupt practices and issues that is going on.
Right.
Today, as we speak, we are here saying that the Special Prosecutor's Office should be proactive and not reactive. To be proactive means that you must have a well-equipped investigative department. A department that can go fish out information and come and tell you that, look, this office, they are about to commit this act, which borders on corruption. And so let's jump in and prevent it before it is committed. The question we ask is, if Special Prosecutor's Office comes out to say that they are not well-resourced, then we may assume that they are not well-resourced, and that is the reason why they will sit down just like the way any other Ghanaian will sit down, wait for the issue to come into the public domain through social media or whatever you can think of, traditional media or whatever you can think of, before they also decide that they are going to act.
Right. And let's talk about the issue of government interference in the job of the Special Prosecutor. The first ever Special Prosecutor in the country, Martin Amidu, when he resigned, actually cited government interference in his work. Do you think that could also be a factor in the execution of the work of the special prosecutor that makes it seem like it's inactive?
It is a fundamental issue. And that is the reason why Crusaders Against Corruption, we have said that the basis or the root cause of corruption in this country has to do with our 1992 Constitution. It's not just the Special Prosecutor's Office. Our 1992 Constitution is a constitution that was created or developed known as political constitution. It's a constitution that has been created to protect politicians and leaders and not citizens. And so it is not by chance that when you look at the executive chapter the executive chapter of the Constitution, you realize that almost all institutions, almost all appointments in this country are done by one person in the name of the president, the executive. So the executive has exclusive power to appoint and disappoint without reasoning, giving any reason to anyone. And you see, it is a human tendency that anytime you are appointed by someone, your first allegiance is towards the one who appointed you.
Okay.
That is a human tendency. It is also a clear fact, especially in this country and this part of our world, that anyone who appoints you has a strong influence in the way you go about and you do your things. And that is why we are not surprised that the first special prosecutor, Martin Amidou, came out to lament and say this.
Right.
You see, there is in this country some years back.
Kindly hold on with what you're about to say. I have a text message from a viewer, and it says, "Good evening, my name is David, and I'm watching your program. It seems the corruption campaigner is trying to downgrade the public prosecutor and the members of the MPP government. Properties started selling since 1992, as he mentioned, but when he was asked to give out some names, he started from 2005, and most names are MPP members, but we know the most are NDCs. All these discussions are great, but the problem in this country is the lawmakers are the breakers of their own laws. So this country we live in is like Animal Farm." Thank you for that message. We're wrapping up. So in 30 seconds, let me ask you, the person is saying that you only mentioned names of MPP people. Why?
That is unfortunate if that is how it presented itself.
Okay.
That is not what it is supposed to be. Indeed, when you go to our Facebook page, this list is there. You can have a look at it, take your time and go through it, and you identify all the people. But remember when we started, I told you that there are individuals who are alive, those we can confidently say that are alive.
Right.
And it was on that background that I was mentioning certain names.
Okay.
And if indeed I wanted, it is not about shaming any individual, it's about fighting corruption.
Right.
So that is why it is not about the one I mentioned or I didn't mention. It is about us making sure that we retrieve what belongs to us. Right. But in concluding, you said just we are concluding. In concluding, the reason why we are not able to fight corruption very well is because our 1992 Constitution in itself needs some amendments.
Right.
And so we are calling on Parliament, we are calling on government to go back to the 1992 Constitutional Review Commission's report, which was submitted in 2011, for us to see how best we can review the Constitution as we have it now, if indeed we want to fight corruption.
Emmanuel, thank you very much for coming to the show. My name is Kenneth Jesse. That's all time will allow for this edition of Good Afternoon Ghana. Bye for now.